today we're talking all about upcoming alterations to inheritance tax. Joining us on the line now to talk us through this, about the effects of the budget change, is somebody who I haven't spoken to for a while. It's Rico Wojtulewicz from the National Federation of Builders. Rico, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, apart from the government trying to tax construction out of existence.
Yeah, well, trying to tax everybody, I think. It does, anybody that breathes, you're going to get taxed. Now, first of all, I just want to know, when you think about the people that are listening to us today on Fixed Radio, which are the small to medium businesses, sole traders, that sort of thing, will this have an impact on them and, of course, on your members of the National Federation of Builders?
Oh, well, look, it definitely will. And while the way it used to work effectively is if you have a business worth more than £1 million and that kind of your property and buildings, unlisted shares and machinery, then after that you used to get no tax on top of that on the inheritance tax. Now anything above £1 million will be taxed at 50%. And while some people might go, my business isn't worth £1 million, all my assets aren't worth £1 million, the problem we've got here is that your regional contractors, even smaller contractors that might have quite a lot of assets that take them above the £1 million, they might go out of business, which then means the pipeline of work starts to dry up from those companies. You only get the really big companies around, which often do things on subcontract on lowest price. So the knock-on effects of the broader industry are what our real concerns are. And yes, a lot of our members have been around for 100 years, so the family businesses, they definitely are going to be hit by this. But there's just a broader issue here that people aren't quite grasping the impact of, and that is the supply chain. And so much of our industry is unfortunately now people that are coming to the end of their retirement, start their retirement, closing their businesses. Are they going to be able to afford to do this, or are they just going to sell the businesses? Some of my members that went through it before, they just said, we closed the business. We closed sections of our business because we just couldn't afford to carry on with these crazy changes.
See, that's a worry, isn't it? That people are just going to go, rather than through all, my family, it's just pass the business on from great-granddad to granddad to everybody else. And it was all hunky-dory, all fine. You only had to, in latter years, just change your name at company's house. And that was, CEOs, etc. But today, it's become more and more complicated because, as you say, people, they take into consideration your assets. So if people think, oh, well, my business only turns over X, but it's all about the machinery. It's all about, all your earnings. They could be earning, a lot of them earning a lot of money now off socials as well, off social media. So all that's taken into consideration before you're even thinking, do you know what, I'm not going to pass it on to the kids. I'm just going to close the business, full stop, end of.
Yeah, and margins are really low on a lot of projects. Contracting, up to 2.5%. And okay, house building you can make up to the accepted level that the government allows you to make is around 10 to 15%. But that's on the project, not on the running of the whole business. So even if you are making an amount that people think, oh, you can just make that money up. Well, no, you can't. There's not the cash flow available. The way the system works is you'll have around 10 years probably to pay any of that inheritance tax back. But people will say, well, you get this double amount because you can pass it on to your partner. So say if the owner of the business dies and they pass it on to their spouse, well, you've got this thing called nil-based tax, nil-based rate, and that's £325,000. You can pass that on to your partner. It's not the same for business rates, so you can't pass that £1 million on to your partner, which then can be transferred to your kids later down the line. So a lot of people are going to have to start thinking about putting that £1 million in a trust. And this is a new thing because actually the original 0% rate was because accounting is complicated and they wanted to just make sure that family businesses stayed family businesses. And they didn't have to go through this whole complicated tax procedure with accountants and trying to find loopholes, whatever it might be. And they just changed all that. So not only now will you have to be more smart with the way you perhaps retain your assets, but you have to pay someone to do it. And this just shouldn't be the way for smaller businesses. And again, people think, £1 million, that's a massive amount. Well, let's say you're in the southeast. It's not your fault. You might have had a piece of land then now the government deems it's worth X amount, and that's where your offices are, or maybe you've built a building on it. So there's so many ways now people have to really consider in order to make sure they don't go stunk by this. And I'm just desperately worried that we lose more and more construction businesses at a time when we just can't afford to do that. It's too important, and there's no growth in that construction. So,
do they take into consideration the value of your property as well? Because that's part of your asset. Your domestic roof over your head. Will they take that into consideration?
Yeah, so they will. They will. So not just the business though. Is they will actually take it into consideration of your personal wealth. So your house. Now you'll get your £325,000 nil rate on that as well. So that goes on top. But of course, it goes out of everything. So maybe you pass on this stuff early. Well, you still might get caught from that later down the line, and then your children or whoever you pass it to will still have to pay that extra tax. So you're effectively deferring the tax on top. So there's no easy way out here. And if you're a builder, if you think about it, you're skilled at building a property. So your natural talent is to maybe make an asset increase in value of a piece of land or a building. So you're probably going to get to that value quite quickly, especially if it's a multi-generational business.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of that. I've got to be honest with you. But if they're taking all of that, and this is important to our guys that are listening now, because the majority of them will all be thinking, well, it's not going to affect me, so I'm not worried. But now you've put it in that way, it's possible that it could affect them. They could fall into that category. So, which obviously I hope they don't, because they've got enough to worry about as it is, particularly at the moment. Got so many things to concern themselves with. There they are. They built up this lovely business. Some of them have built it up from scratch and not even had it handed down to them. And there they are now faced with extra taxation, which just drives everybody insane, as it has the farmers. And I know you've been out and supported those guys as well. I just don't see how we can avoid it, apart from, and like you say, even then it's not as safe as houses, shall we say, and that is to sort of put it in a trust for your offspring, if that's the way you want to go.
Yeah, and just so people know, it's not the end. Government is also going to increase the amount for planning fees, domestic planning fees particularly, so they're going to double in value. So there's going to be even further kind of stealth taxes coming down the line, which of course is going to then reduce the margins people are going to make, which makes businesses less viable. So what position does that put in when you're already pushing down this inheritance tax issue, and you're trying, you're effectively forcing people to make decisions really early on?
Yeah, it's
decisions that really concern me, because how do you forward plan a business when you don't know what money you're going to make, and you can't plan the costs?
And you've got that hanging over your head, as well as upcoming road vehicle tax as well. You're going to be hammered by come April.
Doubling, yeah. even on electric vehicle, on the hybrids, they're doubling it. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is, and it's so annoying. I don't want to do this show to annoy people. I want to do this show to give people information and to arm them, shall we say? And you've helped us do that, Rico. Mate, listen, we really appreciate your time, and I know you've gone to great lengths to get to where you're going today in terms of speaking to us. So thank you for your time. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully we'll chat again in the near future.
Hopefully so, yeah. Nice chat to you.
And you, mate. That's Rico Wojtulewicz there from the National Federation of Builders. And